What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, and today we are talking about what is likely to become a big issue when the Rise of Iron expansion finally releases. Now, that big issue is the fact that we are getting no extension or addition to Vault Space when the Rise of Iron comes out. Now, before we jump onto this topic, I do want to say that earlier today, I uploaded a video detailing Titanfall 2's single player. I was actually invited out to LA for a special Titanfall 2 event, and part of this event was a presentation by the developers detailing what they've done in single player, and that's exactly the information I'm bringing to you guys in that video. So if you're into Titanfall 2, definitely check out that video. Now, moving back onto this topic, and guys, trust me, this is likely to become a big issue. I've been playing Destiny since the alpha, and I've watched this game twice go through basically pitched battles with the community and the developers about increases to Vault Space. Back in the day, OG Destiny, we only had one panel to Vault Space, and then thankfully we added a second panel. Then after that, there was added the, breaking up of armor and weapons and stuff. Before, if I'm remembering correctly, there was just like one panel for everything, and it was just really limited vault space. And again, the community really had to fight and was asking very adamantly. Like, there was some, top rated posts on Reddit and stuff saying this is absolutely ridiculous, you're not letting us play the game. Like, it was some pretty mad portions of the community that were going after Bungie for increasing their vault space. So this wasn't just kind of a passive issue that we asked and they said okay, fine. There was some pretty upset parts of the community over these issues, and rightfully so. The fact that we had such a limited vault space in the past really limited the player choice within the game. You couldn't use what you wanted to use. You couldn't store stuff that you wanted to store. Collectors were totally screwed. If you wanted to complete an armor set, forget it. Like, you just weren't able to. Thankfully, that is in the past, and the vault space is much greater than it once was. So Bungie did listen to us, and now you can actually go out, start to collect things and the like. But this is rearing its ugly head with this new expansion. And of course, this isn't just, purely speculation. The fact that we're not getting an increase to vault space has been confirmed by Game Informer in their latest kind of Rise of Iron information dump. They said, and I quote, Bungie didn't have any current plans to further extend vault space. So there you have it. When the Rise of Iron is coming out, we are not getting an increase to vault space. Now, is this going to be as cataclysmic as it was kind of before when expansions were coming out and we had no room in our vault space? Well, I think it is going to impact a lot of people. Like myself, I have 105 out of 108 for the weapons. However, I don't think it's going to be as bad this time. Again, it's going to be an issue, and that's why I'm making this video, but I don't think it's going to be as rough this time around. And this is perhaps the reason Bungie hasn't increased it, and that's simply because there is still going to be infusion in the game, and that means all of your year 2 weapons that you're currently using that you like, you can infuse upwards. And what that means is that when you get a new shiny auto rifle, well, I say new and shiny, but we all know with the Destiny loot system everything has the same archetype, so it's going to be the same, but that's a different topic. But you're going to get this new auto rifle. It's going to be a higher light, and you can just infuse it right away into what you're already using. And so that is going to just eliminate a lot of the new loot coming in. Because if you're infusing a lot of this new loot, it's not taking up inventory space or vault space, it's just disappearing into your current weapons. And so again, that's going to eliminate a lot of the excess loot coming with the Rise of Iron. But even then, again, there's going to be a lot of new desirable pieces of loot that we won't want to delete. What about all of the new weapon perks that are presumably going to be coming with the Rise of Iron? We're going to be getting auto rifles this time with entirely new perks that we've never seen before. And therefore, we're going to want to keep them, right? You're going to want to try out these new weapons with these new perks that you have experienced nothing similar to, hopefully, in the past in Destiny. You're not going to want to immediately delete them and infuse them. And the fact that you're going to have such limited vault space is going to kind of impede on this, is going to kind of limit your ability to try out all of these new perks, new builds, new weapons, new armor, because again, you have nowhere to put them. Now, of course, the potential solution to all of this is, and I'm sure some people have already, made the comment, why don't you just delete your old stuff? Why don't you just get the new stuff, delete some of your old weapons? Do you really need, the Suros PDX-45 again? But the fact is, you might. And the crazy part is that Bungie themselves have created a scenario where no one wants to delete their old weapons. And the reason being is because they keep taking stuff out of the loot table. I mean, for goodness sakes, I heavily regret going back and deleting some of my year 1 weapons. I deleted my year 1 Shadow Price to make room for new stuff. And that was a huge mistake because they've removed all of the year 1 weapons from the loot table. Essentially, they've added a few back, of course, with the Crucible and the Vanguard Quartermaster, but because Bungie keeps removing massive amounts of weapons from the loot table entirely, they've created this scenario where everyone's super paranoid to delete their stuff. If you have this good weapon, you don't want to delete it because, chances are when the new expansion comes out, it's going to be completely removed from the loot table and you won't be able to get it again. So that is not a good scenario that Bungie themselves have created, and now again, no one wants to delete anything and your vault space is just piling up. However, even with that being said, I'm sure there is a lot of deleting people can do. I know for myself, do I really need that role on my Herja D that I think is pretty okay, but I haven't even gotten to try out yet? Probably not, right? I probably don't need that. But again, I'm paranoid of the fact that Herja D is going to be replaced with some other gun and it's no longer going to become available to loot when the Rise of Iron comes out, and maybe pulse rifles get some sort of a buff and it's some sort of a tweak, and then suddenly that weapon is amazing and everyone's like, oh my gosh, if you didn't delete your Herja D, go back and try it out, it's so amazing. That's going on in my mind, and because that's kind of what has already happened. That's the crazy part, is that it literally already happened. I deleted my LDR. I deleted my year 1 LDR to make room for other stuff, and I massively regret it. But again, there is definitely some stuff I can delete, and the fact that there is still infusion. All of the weapons currently that have infusion will be able to level up presumably to the new max light level, and they may still be keeping 1-for-1 infusion when the Rise of Iron comes out, so it won't be as bad as it's been in the past, but it's still bad. If you're introducing all of this new stuff, presumably they want us to be able to try this new stuff, make new builds, all of this stuff, and we're not going to be able to do that with the same fervor and the same, degree of accomplishment that we would be able to do with an increased vault space. So I really hope Bungie takes a second look at this issue and decides, you know what, we will increase vault space just by a page for weapons and armor. That's going to be extremely useful. And one of the things that I really want to mention, which has really impacted Destiny in the past in terms of vault space, and it's something that most people don't think about. When you hear vault space isn't being expanded, again, the first things you think about is weapons and armor. I'm not going to be able to get more of those. But something that is a huge issue is actually consumables and materials. Now, with every new expansion, we get a bunch of new consumable items and materials, and the fact that that's not getting extended in any sort of way, especially within our original inventory, can lead to problems. I remember, I think it was with the House of Wolves expansion, there was all of these new consumables and materials added, and the problem there wasn't just that, hey, we don't have any room for new weapons and stuff. It was actually a functional problem. You couldn't play the game properly because you didn't have room for these new consumable items that you needed to do portions of the campaign to level up your weapons and so on. To play the game properly, you needed these items that were added with the new expansion, and you didn't have room for them. And that created a huge practical problem because there was no increase to vault space at the time, and they had to kind of quickly add more because people were saying, we actually can't play the game properly because we don't have room for this stuff that lets us do, the new stuff that you've added in the expansion. And that was a pretty legitimate problem that may rear its head again with the Rise of Iron. So, in summary, I want to bring this issue to your attention today because I've seen this exact same issue create problems in Destiny's past. Hopefully, and especially with Infusion, it won't be as big of a problem this time around, but it's likely to still be a problem. Now, of course, I'm going to get people on this channel, I always do, saying, well, all you do is complain and all this negativity, but listen guys, I wouldn't be doing my job if I was only bringing you the positives about the Rise of Iron. I gotta keep it real and also bring you potential problems, and this is definitely a potential problem. Hopefully Bungie can realize this too and can implement some sort of extension to the vault space. And in fact, the solution to this problem doesn't only have to be an extension to vault space. I made a video a while ago about the idea of raid kiosks, somewhat like exotic kiosks in the game where you can go and withdraw your old exotics once you earn them. That exact same thing, but for raid weapons and armor, and that would alleviate the pressure on vault space immensely. And so if for whatever reason there's not enough memory or it's an actual technical issue that they're not adding vault space into the game, they can somewhat solve this problem by adding raid kiosks. Being able to store all of my raid weapons in some sort of kiosk would actually really help my vault space issues, and so that would be a potential solution to this issue. Bungie, if you're listening, that is something you should definitely look at. And if you guys watching this video agree with that and agree with what I've said in this video, it's up to you to help spread the word of this video by simply liking and especially sharing it so we can actually get some of this stuff hopefully implemented, or at least so Bungie is aware of these problems. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, and if you want to see more Destiny content, hopefully with positive news about the Rise of Iron, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day. Now, the Cryptarch is just such a huge part of Destiny. He is so associated with the game, both in the positive, like when he gave you your first exotic out of a legendary engram, and the negative, like when he gave you blues out of your other 100 legendary engrams. But either way, he is just so strongly a part of Destiny, and that's why it's kind of sad to see him so heavily fallen from grace, become so essentially useless within the current state of the game.